Hello, Mr. Gowerluck here with some fifth grade science from Minnesota, Anoka, Minnesota to be exact. And we're going to talk about the Grand Canyon. Can you dig it? And I was wondering if you have heard any jokes lately. I have a couple of jokes that I want to tell you as I'm doing this as well. But the Grand Canyon, what you're looking at on your screen, you'll see there's a spot in the Grand Canyon that has kind of this overlook. It's built so that and there's also like a plexiglass spot in the floor of this overhang that you are over the Grand Canyon, and I want to say about a mile in the air above it. So I hope that thing holds for those people, that's for sure. Where is the Grand Canyon? Well, the Grand Canyon's in northwest Arizona. And as you can see, I hope that my cursor shows here, you can see the squiggly line here that's going through. That squiggly line has high land on one side, or actually on both sides, because the Colorado River is cutting through it. This is northwest Arizona here, Pipe Spring National Monument. You have a plateau. You have Utah up here, Zion National Park, if you've ever been there. In Nevada over here, I don't know if you've ever heard of Hoover Dam. Lake Mead flows in, and Hoover Dam then blocks up the Colorado River. And then after that, you get this, I don't want to say a trickle of a river because it can be pretty powerful, but it's just not as much as what it was. And the reason that they block up the river, of course, is so that folks can use the water and be able to have access to it. But of course, it leaves people on this side of the river with not as much water to access. There's a big city over on this end, and I'm sure you've probably heard of it, Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is there. But we're going to talk today a lot about not just a little bit of history about the Grand Canyon, how it was formed. And I know none of you probably were there at the time when it was formed, but I think Ms. Stein might have been there, or maybe Ms. Barrett, or some of those other teachers who, I don't know, a little older than me. I'm not very old. I mean, and I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that they're old, but they did sit by some famous people in their second grade class. I think Ms. Stein may have sat by Socrates, and Ms. Barrett may have sat by Aristotle or someone like that. Anyway, and to be smarter than them, that's incredible. A little more about the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon can be found in the state of Arizona. As we just stated, it's located in the Grand Canyon National Park, and the Colorado River runs through it. From what I've heard, the Grand Canyon is just gorgeous. Hold on, that's like a pun, not gorgeous, but gorgeous. And then it also makes me think of a song, Canyon, Feel the Love Tonight. I think that's something that came from a kid named Jason, or a kid named Izzy in my class. But anyway, I have a knock-knock joke for you. I know you like jokes, and seeing that we just mentioned rivers and water, knock-knock, water. Water who? What are you up to? That was dumb. Okay. So what the thought is that the Colorado River runs through this canyon, and it's responsible for the depth and the width of how the canyon formed. Now, obviously, that didn't happen with one rain, and it didn't happen overnight. We weren't there, although maybe one of your teachers was. I don't know, depending on their age, but I know I wasn't there. The history of the Grand Canyon, the thought is that the first people to inhabit the Grand Canyon were ancient Puebloans, which were also known as the Anasazi, cave dweller, cliff dweller kind of people that left in this. Here's some of the clues. You look at this background photograph of some cave drawings, and a lot of clues there as to, I think different tribes that had different kinds of art or different types of communication left behind. And I think that's where we get our clue on that. So obviously, with the the tribe who'd been living there for thousands of years, as Western expansion occurred in America, in the 17 and 1800s, 200 years, 240 years ago, 245 years ago, two Spanish priests by the name of Francisco Dominguez and Sylvester Escalante ventured to the canyon. And that's where I'm thinking, whoa, dude, what is this? Holy cow. That might have been the first time holy cow was ever said at that point. I don't know. But they were trying to get from Santa Fe, New Mexico to California. And, something was in the way. So then, of course, there were different types of people, different groups of people that explored throughout the 1800s or the 19th century. And then in 1908, in the 20th century, the Grand Canyon became a national monument. And I think that we've read a little bit about Yosemite in our Wonders book when Teddy Roosevelt kept saying bully over and over again with John Muir, who wanted him to camp out with him and see the park. And that was the Grand Canyon was a part of that first set of national parks that, in 1919 became an official national park. So that's a pretty big deal. And you think about it, 1919, it makes the park only, 102 years old, unless I'm not very good with my math. So how did scientists think that this Grand Canyon was formed? And seeing that we weren't there, others were, but we weren't. They think it formed over millions of years of water, ice, wind, and plate tectonic activity. And they called the Grand Canyon a geological wonder. It's 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide in some places, and over 5,000 feet deep. Now, 5,280 feet give you a mile. If it's over 5,000 feet, that means it's over a mile deep in some spots. It can be seen from space. That's amazing. So, like in my class, when Muhammad jumps, because he has this great ability to jump, he's athletic, and I think we have others in my class. Shelby can really jump. Melanie can really jump. When they jump, they get up to space. They can look down and see the Grand Canyon, which tells you something. So, good job, kids. It's been considered one of the natural wonders of the world. Formation. When and how the Grand Canyon came to be is still the subject of controversy because, of course, we weren't there. Like I said, can't guarantee your teachers weren't, but I know I wasn't because I'm still, I'm a youngin', as they say. There are two prevailing theories. The first suggests that the Colorado River carved most of the canyon over 5 to 6 million years ago. And then there's a second that suggests that ancient rivers flowing in the same general route eventually formed the giant canyon that we see today. Well, water erosion. It's kind of a big deal when you start talking about water and what it can do. One thing that's certain, water's played a huge role in carving the Grand Canyon, is what they assume. They assume that the water started on top and just made its way down and carved out a V as it kept going down. Just kept washing the walls away, which means that we probably had times where there was flooding, and flooding will be very violent against the walls. It also tells you that the walls of the Grand Canyon probably are sandy or made of sandstone that erode easily and quickly. When it rains, that hard rain compacts the earth in and around the canyon. Canyon can't absorb all that water, so it's going to run off. And when it's running off, it runs off at a high rate of speed. It can loosen boulders. It can make those gouge against the sides of the walls and just eventually expand it. Of course, you have ice. When you have water, you can have the potential for ice. And I don't know if you knew this, but being in Arizona, yes, they can get snow and ice. And so when you're talking about ice, when ice expands, okay? And then you can also have frost, and frost can heave things or make things rise. Since all you have to do is look at a fence. I'm a baseball coach, so sometimes when the frost goes down really deep, that frost will make a heave in the fence, make that fence kind of come up, the fence posts come up, so that your fence isn't perfectly level all the way around. It like has this little rise in some places. I don't know. If you play baseball or you play soccer or play another sport, feel free and check that out on your own sometime to see that if you look at the fence and it's not perfectly level across the top, you can say, "Oh, there's a frost heave. There's a frost heave," and everyone will say, "All right, you're kicked off the team." But anyway, so does wind play a role? Absolutely. Look at this bird. yummy. I'm looking for fifth graders. Woohoo! I think that's a California condor. And by the way, there are many different types of animals, raptors, other types of birds in this area that certainly make it their home. Okay. And someone was saying, "Hey, Mr. G, you have a lot. You're telling me a lot about this Grand Canyon. I just want the cliff notes." Um, that's kind of a cheesy one. There's a lot I could say about the Grand Canyon. It just feels all too deep. And ever since I got back from the Grand Canyon, all I'm serving is dry humor.
That was easy.
I don't know what any of that stuff means. I'm just reading off of a puns thing right next to me. I don't know the pun. It's Carlos's idea. He thought it'd be funny. So anyway, powerful wind. Obviously, wind is an erosion factor. Things, wind can definitely blow away little small particles, and when you start coupling wind with water and frost and ice and all that, eventually you get a canyon. Now, the weird thing is, we have the Mississippi River that separates Champlin and Anoka. I'm wondering if that Mississippi River will do the same thing that the Grand Canyon is doing, or has done, well, it continues to do. In 5 million years, will Champlin and Anoka even exist because the river will have gone so deep and made it go so wide that we're living in a national park area for the future Americans in 5 million years? Isn't that weird to think about? Anyway, that's what I have for you today. It's a lot of talk about the Grand Canyon and the fact that the Grand Canyon was formed when you have ice and you have water and you have a lot of wind and things like that. And obviously, it didn't form it in a straight line, did it? It looks like it's zigzaggy and squiggly, as those are scientific technical terms, zigzaggy, squiggly. And it follows the route of the Colorado River, which, of course, water tends to go to the lowest point. It doesn't tend to. It does go to the lowest point. And so water's finding the lowest points and continuing to move through those areas, which means you must have some mountains around there or something. If you ever get a chance, check out the Grand Canyon in person sometime. Just be careful where you step, and be careful if you're taking selfies. You don't want to fall off the end or anything like that. Probably not funny. But I do want to say hi and thanks for watching to all the folks out there. I also want to let you know I got a lot of information from the National Park Service and a little bit of a help with some slides in my brain and the National Geographic, not National Geographic, but National Geological Service and such. There's a lot of great information about the Grand Canyon and other types of geological features out there. All right, thanks, and make sure you're listening to your teachers, and I wish you nothing but success in your science studies. This is Mr. G signing off.